What's up, guys? Tim also with DragBoss Garage. Welcome to the channel and another live chat, an epic live chat. The world stops turning. So I welcome everybody here. Let's see who we got here in the house, so to speak. We got Don Dodder, a Chevy man. Good to see you, Don. Thank you. Jeff, glad you're here. Mr. MHR, we'll just call you. That's good. Good to see you here. And we got Ty, Mopar Man, and Charles Servideo. Good to see you here, Charles. Thank you so much. And let's see who else we have. Mike Cranston from New Zealand, Tom Z, Vic Gloomer, John Wilborn. Good to see you. Thank you for being here, guys. So I'll give you a couple little laundry list type stuff. We had a live chat last night with Darin and I for the membership, Knowledge is Power. If you guys are interested in getting in depth when it comes to cylinder head airflow dynamics and porting, that's where you need to be. So we decided to do a live chat. Now, Darin, I had talked to him earlier. I'm not sure if he's going to be here. If he's here, he's here. If he ain't, he ain't. Chad and I had talked before for, God, almost pretty near 4 hours. So one of the things I wanted to put up, and let me pull it up now, because if you guys can help, I'd appreciate it. We got 45 people here. So I'm really only on Facebook and YouTube, and Darin and I are gonna expound and move on to some other platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Well, my daughter showed me this. I'll show you guys. Now, this is on TikTok. So this is a guy, Roadster 966, who's copying me, DragBoss Garage, and has a lot of my videos on there and been trying to do whatever, pick up followers, build a account there, or whatever you want to call it. So if you do me a favor, you look that up, send him a message, or if you have a TikTok account, complain about him, because I want him out of there. Now it makes me going to have to start that platform sooner, which is not a big deal. So,
snakes.
You know what it's like to have someone copy you.
It is.
You know?
They say it's flattery, but I am not going to buy that.
And then I heard that, you know, it's the highest form of flattery. I don't know if I buy that either.
Lazy.
So let's see what we got here. I guess what we'll do is we'll just start doing some questions. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Make sure you got all the information for the questions, you know. And if you've been here before, you know what that means. Now, some of the guys I've noticed will start typing like mad, and then they got 5 or 6 questions in a row. So we're not going to just keep hitting one man. We're going to move along and skip around and see what we can do. So let's see who we have here. The first guy on here is, well, this is a good one. This is Chad's right up your alley. And you guys know Chad Speier. He's here. He took time out of his day. Thank you, Chad, for being here.
Yep.
Vic Bloomer says, I'd like to hear a discussion on airspeed limitations on super stock ports. That would take 3 hours, I bet. But what can you put concisely, Chad?
So 350 feet per second at the minimum. That's
minimum.
At the minimum, yeah. And you can't get the minimum at the seat ring because the port's so small.
Got it.
And you know, the smallest valve they have is a 184. So, you know, and you got a lot bigger throat than what you would normally would, because you've got to slow the air down to make the turn. So my personal engine's probably got a 92.5 throat.
92, okay.
It's big. But, and here's another thing though too, and it's really hard to come up with the exact number, but that's why the wing goes so far into it, because you're shrinking that up as well. But I'll literally, so let's put it this way. If I flow the head and it flows 275 CFM and I've got 1.7 cross section there, and I put my pitot dead center and it shows 490, I will still open that up to where it's 350. I did that. I've done that. I've done it to where I've made it where the smallest possible minimum area, which is going to be at the front, I had it way smaller, but it was still moving air. Dynoed it, and it fell off quick. It peaked at like 6,800 on a 350. Wow. Okay. Wow. So it's telling me, when you hear the talk about the minimum no faster than 350 feet per second, is dead nuts. And what that is so you use your formula, and the speed of sound, the formula will be at 55 Mach is 690. 690 divided by 2, 350. That's 28 inches. So that's why that number is so important, and why you use the, you know, and I catch a lot of that too, where Well, it's all about a running engine. Oh, I totally get it. Yeah, I understand. But here's the thing. You need to understand the math that you're seeing at 28 inches, and you can definitely correlate it into a live engine. You definitely can. So, yeah, no, you can't duplicate on a flow bench what the engine's doing. But you know what's really remarkable is it's so defined, and the flow bench has been out so long, and the math has been around so long. There's guys that can nail it. Darin can nail it. Larry Moe can nail it. Yep. You can nail what you're seeing at 28 inches on a flow bench and nail the live engine. You can do it. You know, so I understand what everybody else is saying, but yeah, so as I've said before, all of the fast ports, comp eliminator stuff, the little 300-inch engines, anything that I'm going to call max effort, 13 degree, if it flows 400, take 400 times 2.4 divided by 350, and that's the minimum.
Okay.
Here's another thing, and I have a spreadsheet. So let's say you run CFM demand and you can't get that cylinder head to flow enough air. Okay. Let's say you run your engine demand and it says you need 425 CFM. Well, shit, I can only get 400. Are you still going to make that minimum area the same at 350 feet per second if it's only flowing 400 and it really wants 435? Why would you do that? Because what you're actually doing is you're slowing it down. So that 350 that's your target, when you're 30 CFM less than what you need, you're just slowing the feet per second down. So I have a nice formula, a nice sheet that takes into consideration based off the cylinder head you're using. Mm-hmm. Let's say it says this is engine RPM, this is bore, this is stroke, this is how hard I want to turn it. Based on 55 Mach, this is how much cross section you need. Based on your target, this is how much cross section you need. It tells you how much air you need, and it spits out all those numbers at 300 feet per second, 310, 320, 330. Then the box below it, let's say you're working with that same cylinder head and you're 30 shy, you put that actual head that for that combo up there flows 400, and it spits out a whole new set of numbers based off of your target velocities. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So in other words, what I'm saying is if you run CFM demand and it says you need X amount and you're 30 shy, you don't want to give it that much area because all you're doing is slowing that air down. You're making the area too big. So you'll hear smaller, faster, more efficient ports. That's exactly what we're talking about. Okay. So a street engine will be the same way. It'll be fast because you want it. But going back to the super stock stuff, they're literally 172 cc's. They average like 2.5 square inches average port. 350 at the minimum. They're 325 average feet per second through the whole port.
And you want it fast on a street car because look at the RPM range it's operating in. It's not operating at $6,000 and $7,000.
Yeah. So the old way of doing stuff was you put a lot of camshaft in it if the head's it's under head. Now, if you can, the whole, like I said on the last one, it's all about managing, getting that air to make the turn. If you can run them fast. You can definitely run them fast. And all of the stuff, normal stuff, 310 is pretty normal at the minimum.
310? Yeah. Really? Okay.
Yeah. 300, 310, maybe a little faster. And I do it. I mean, if I could walk over there and show you I have Audi. My flow bench has got a number it spits out. I have Audi. I have performance trends. I have it all. But I will definitely run my spreadsheet, and I'll post it up on my website so people can see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you don't need that much area if you can't achieve that much air. So air is important. You need so much air to make that power. But if you can't achieve that power with that air that you have, you don't need to be as big as what it tells you. You can be smaller. Definitely.
Did you devise this sheet from experience in different cylinder heads and map it out?
Here, okay. So Jason, which was my old head porter or my old CNC guy, I made a video. I got a video on YouTube that talks about all of this. I aimed for this. Here's the math. He took all that math from that video and made me a cool little XLS.
Okay.
So I had some time in it. I was charging like 25 bucks for it, something cheap like that. But it also has, like, you can say, like, you got a 290 valve or 2190 valve. You got 2.145 at the throat. It's a 347 stem. It'll spit out the cross section. It's got a box to where you can put like a corner radius in it. Tells you what the cross section there is. I mean, it's just really handy. It's just really, really handy. In fact, I got it on my phone. I just use a. I'll send you a copy.
I think it'd be a great idea if you came to our membership.
Yeah.
And did a presentation on that.
I'll do that
for the members. All right. Awesome.
But yeah, so you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from, you know, members, like I was saying before, the first thing I'll do when I get a set of cylinders, no matter what it is or what I'm working on, is flow it. Use my probe, see how much area is there, what it's flowing. And if it's not flowing anywhere close to the cross section that's there for your target velocity, no sense in making it bigger. You just got to make it flow more air. Valve job, throat size, that kind of deal.
And I wonder if you guys that are here, we have 88 people already. So pay attention to that and maybe comment on the side when I'm going down. We'll see if people are familiar with that concept. So Mike Cranston's from New Zealand. Thank you. He says, hey, Tim, Darin, and Chad. 11 a.m. Monday morning here in New Zealand. Thanks, guys, for your valuable time to bring us information and knowledge. Cheers to you, too. Thank you for being here.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Definitely.
MHR, he says, if the CFM demand says 375 and the heads only flow 350, how should I think about cross-sectional area? Make the port minimal cross-sectional area smaller than the calculation says?
Absolutely.
Yeah, 23 degrees. Yep, there you go. We just
yeah, just kind of yeah, absolutely. And it's really not a lot, you know, because corner radius will play a big part in it. And like I said, a lot of people will 9-point it, top, middle. It's way too much work for me. I like it dead center. If the center velocity isn't where I want it, then I will probe it to find out where the issue is, you know. But you do it enough, and you just do it, and you know you're okay. You know, the only time that you really need to study it is if it's something that you're getting in and you're trying to figure out or make it flow more air, you know, that kind of deal.
I was thinking of back when we had first talked, and you said that you hesitated about sending your first set of cylinder heads out. Yeah. You were worried and concerned about that, you know?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's funny when I just...
It doesn't go away. I had it last week again.
Did you really?
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's good. I mean, it
keeps you conscious of what you're doing. It makes you think.
Exactly.
You don't get complacent, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Ty says, this is going to be good. I've been hoping to get some other pointers on here with Darin and Chad. This is a great one to start with. Well, there you go. Thanks for being here, Ty. We appreciate you. Charles, again, thank you for being here.
Hey, Charles.
Tim Hilliard's here. Hi, Tim. Hi, Chad. Good to see you here. Hi, Charlie. I'm not sure who's Charlie. Maybe Charlie's on here. Shelton Bars is here.
Hey, guys.
Thank you. We all know Shelton. Don't get ready. I'm going to call you this week because we got to get that live chat going, Shelton.
Cool.
Now, here's a guy that I've been kind of talking to, and I'm pretty impressed with his porting. When I put the name up here, Chad, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that guy can take pictures, and the ports are like killer.
Yes. Yeah. I don't have that, but I don't have that much patience. He does a really good job.
Very good. I saw that Cleveland intake, and I was impressed with that, Scott. Thanks.
Yeah. And he'll agree with me. It's the burr finish is not only in the burrs, but it's all in your hands. It's in your hands, and he's got good hands.
And I heard you say that to someone because someone said, "What do you bend the burr or something?"
Yeah, no. It's just like I get it. In fact, before I got this really cool one from Killer Carbide, which I think he uses the same one. I think Greg. I finished. All I ordered was 1/2 inch and 3/4 SC5 aluminum burrs. I use that on iron. I use it to finish it because it's all in your hands. It's all in your hands. You know, I got a bunch of it, and I'll tell you right now, if you're doing an iron head, there's nothing better to use than an old dull. Oh, it cuts right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't catch so much. It doesn't catch, and hook.
Yeah, and if you're gonna get it resharpened anywhere, it don't matter. I mean, you'll beat the hell out of it, but it's easy to pull.
That's Greg Kuzo from Killer Carbides.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. I've got some. That's what I have. His bits.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, I've got a bunch of them. I've never sent one back to have it sharpened.
Really?
No, I don't know. I guess I should. He's always after me to send them back, but I just buy new ones.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Chevy says, yeah, those guys who copy other platforms happening a lot. Yeah, it is annoying. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for.
And on the burr real quick, there's a freaking brand new sharp burr is dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous, man. Seriously. Yeah. I mean, I'll take an old junk head before I even go anywhere. Just nod up a little bit because it'll rip your arm right off.
Darin told me he goes to a vise, an anvil, and just hits it a couple times.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to, or you're asking for trouble, man.
Now, I don't know about this. We'll ask a question. You may have done these. I don't think so, but I don't know. It says here, Chad, have you done any coyote heads?
Yes, sir. I have not.
Okay.
I have not.
AC, good to see you here. CD, remind of his specialty, all of us. I'm not sure what that means. He's a headquarter. He loves super stock stuff, if that's what you're asking. So thank you. Chad, do you use tulip valves in your super stock heads?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Not on the exhaust for sure, and the reason being is because I'm after area, because they have to be 64 cc. So it's always bigger, always better to make them bigger and then shrink it with a valve. And I also will shrink it with a guide. So you'll see some pictures where it's got a really long guide in it, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah.
Let's see. There you go. That's a good answer right there. We say Tim says. NHR last minute rule changes. 085 overbore and titanium valves.
Yeah, at first I was a little irritated at the titanium, but then I get it, but I'm not going to believe the idea that stainless is hard to get because titanium's a hell of a lot harder to get. But I did talk last week. I talked to both Manly and Victory, which are, they're the same company, but they're just different entities,
Sure.
And they're willing to put in shelf valve for the super stock stuff.
Really?
The 184, the 194, and the 202. So that makes like a non-coated titanium valve like $130 a piece, and a CRN like 160. So, I was worried about it, and I can remember one of the passes that I made, that engine, it's got stainless. I got fair hollow stems in mine, and I got titanium keepers. I got try to lighten it up. But I can remember one of the very first passes going through the lights about 8,900, and that ran through my head. It was like, holy shit, this thing's got steel valves in it. And then I was thinking, oh, I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Even myself went, because things are a lot different now than they were in the 80s,
Right.
You're gonna get guys that aren't gonna do it. You're gonna get guys that, it's 20 grams of valve going from a hollow stem to a titanium. A good hollow stem 202 is about 106.
Yep.
Titanium is about 84.
80. Yeah. Now, what was the irritating factor of it? The fact that, one, the expense for titanium valves, or two, obtaining it?
Both, I think. And actually, I'll tell you right now, a CRN coated Victory steel hollow stem cost $240.
What do you mean? $240 a valve?
Valve.
Wow. Compared to titanium, which is probably what, 120 maybe?
130 for the mono coated.
Wow.
So, and here's another thing is those things are huge in circle track, because you can't run titanium. So guys are spending $3,000 on steel hollow stem valves.
Jesus, man. That's crazy.
It's crazy. But I've been putting my last 2 or 3 sets of super stock heads, even running a steel valve, I've been putting CHE beryllium seats in it.
Okay.
Even running still. And the reason being is because the fuels are so corrosive. Now, spraying it and spraying Fogget in it or some sort of stuff, it'll help a bunch. But, oh my gosh, the fuel is brutal on them.
Wow.
Brutal.
Really?
So, yeah, it just rusts over the seats. Looks like it's been taken on water.
Mm-hmm.
It just nasty. Yeah, it's bad. So the guys that are willing, it's like a $700 option for copper, but it's worth it. And the cool thing about copper is if you put a copper seat in it, you don't need a CRN valve.
Okay.
You will need a CRN valve if you still keep like a ductile iron in it. Then I would recommend a CRN. But they don't have real steep seats on them anyway. They've only got 45s. There's a lot of guys running way steeper seats, but I never.
I mean, like 55 or something, 50 or something.
52. Yeah.
Okay.
I got my 45 that, like I said, that I designed with my stones will flow exactly the same as a 50.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
RW82, good to see you here. I appreciate you being here. And I'm tuned in from Valdosta, Georgia. Well, thank you for being here. Make sure you guys, we got 110 people now. So make sure that you like and subscribe to DragBoss Garage. I'd appreciate that. And there's a thing called hype, which I just found out about because RW hyped me. And that puts you in a different category in the algorithm. So make sure you hype our videos, mine and Chad, so we can get up there with the big guys. So thank you. Tom says, is there math to calculate optimal bowl CSA percent for a given amount of short side radius degree of rotation, as well as things like bore diameter, piston speed, and peak RPM?
That would be a good question for Darin. I always use like the 12-degree rule for like the short side. So Darin will talk about it to like, and that's where I'll start. I'm not saying that's where I'll finish, but let's say it's a 10-degree head and you add 12, you start 22-degree layover. You start there. Okay. Bowl wise, I like big bowls. A lot of guys don't. But like some of the small block stuff will be 100%. So I try to at least get whatever the valve diameter is for a bowl. Now you'll see some of the SP2 stuff that you'll literally see when the bowls will be like this, and then the it'll look like that. The bowls will be really huge, and then all of a sudden it stops and it goes straight down to throat. So I've had some SP2 stuff like comp at 115. Yeah, huge.
Wow.
But the big block stuff, I always try to keep it at 100. Now street stuff can be a little smaller. One thing I do know that I learned it the hard way is you don't want both. You don't want a big bowl and a big throat. A lot of guys like a big throat for slowing things down. You can't run 105% bowl and a 93% throat. You're just big. So you got to like one or the other and go and kind of port off of that.
Okay. I'll tell you, I talked to Larry Moe the other day. He messaged me. We're talking back and forth, and I was going to surprise you. He was going to come on.
Oh,
that's what he told me. He says, Tim, right now I'm in the crucial point of my new Pipe Max update. He says, I can't take any time away from it. The free time I have has to go to this. He said, I'm trying to get out within 6 months.
Nice.
He said it's going to blow people away when you see the update.
Yeah, I've seen some of the screenshots. It's just
oh yeah,
it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah,
he's an amazing person.
He is.
Ed, thank you for being here. Hello, Tim and Chad. Hello to you too. Peter, what do you say? You're from Finland. He says, yes, sir. It's midnight in Finland, and I really enjoy these sessions. Thank you guys for organizing these. Thank you for being here. We appreciate guys from around the world. DragBoss is world renowned, believe it or not, in countries I never even thought people would watch videos. It's crazy.
It goes everywhere.
Hell yeah. There it is. Thank you from Finland. Pontiac Man says the math was developed by testing engines for decades.
Yeah.
Damn right it was.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Never lies.
Anthony Icovino, good to see you. Hey, Tim and Chad, good to see you guys. Good to see you too. Ty says the same thing. Good to see you. Terry Grover, good to see you. Glad you're here. Terry does a lot of porting himself. Mm-hmm. He does a lot of iron heads.
Yeah, I've seen that. I watched some videos.
Yeah. He gets stuff done, and I like it. He
Yes.
doesn't fool around. Pontiac 411 said, is that airspeed at max lift or at the lift you are actually using on the engine?
Okay, so
good point.
A rule of thumb, Larry Moe.
Yep.
87% of max lift. So if you're running 800 lift, take that times 87, and that's where you should do all of your probing. I do everything at 800 and street stuff at 600, just simply because it's easier, and that way all of my data is that. It will change, and I've literally plotted it from say 300 an inch. You can literally see it. You can see the change in it, but yeah, 87% is kind of the flow bench rule of thumb.
Perfect. There you go. I mean, this is the stuff. These tidbits these nuggets of information is what
Yeah.
sets people apart. You know, your experience and being able to answer that like Darin, like that. So thanks. Appreciate that. Vic says, thank you for addressing his question. Thanks, Vic. We appreciate you too. Now we're going to have to cut this guy off. This is Mike Cranston from New Zealand. So he says, Chad, is that spreadsheet still available for purchase? Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Sounds like it'd be perfect for working on restricted beds.
I kind of have a tutorial on my YouTube channel where I'm just sitting in front of my computer and I'm explaining what each box does. So look at it. But yeah, it's all math. It's all based off 146 CFM per square inch and 350 feet per second. Like I have it on my phone, and when I'm doing something, it's a lot easier than just plugging in all that stuff, and it spits out the number for me. So it's pretty helpful.
There you go, Mike. And Chad and I will talk after this. We'll make sure that he gets on and spend some time with the members only and go in depth and maybe present that chart there.
Sure.
So thank you for that. Brian Salters, good to see you here. I like your channel. Enjoy what you do. What's up, Tim, Darin, and Chad? I preach what Chad is talking about. Love it.
Yeah, I watch his videos. He definitely does. He's a math guy.
Yep. And he's like us. He just talks the way it is, and that's great. No big show and all this crazy stuff going on. Right. So thank you. Charles says, hi, Brian. Good to see you here. Everybody's here tonight. And let's see. Who do we get some questions? Aha. Jeff says, iron rings loud and the dust is brutal. Yeah, we're important. Darin said he won't even do iron heads anymore. You know,
it's hard on you, man. It's hard on you. I literally, the head of choice for the truck pullers was that 514X. And I am not kidding you. It weighed 120 each.
120?
Yeah, I had a guy. I'm not lying to you. I flat told him. I had a guy, I couldn't really lift him, and he had to I'm like, put him right here. Actually, I already worked on him, and I was just going to shrink the port because I told him I think the port's too big. Let's just oval port it. His son brought him in. I said, I'm not flowing him because I can't lift it on my flow bench.
Oh, hell yeah.
I can, but I don't want to hurt myself. Long story short, they were here for probably, say, 7 weeks. And when he came and picked them up, they were in the exact same spot. I never moved them. I freaking ported them. I epoxied them. I did everything right there. And they ran really well. They did.
I mean, think about it, though. That's a lot of weight to be around, man. Come on now.
Shipping was brutal, and he brought him to me, and he was from like Iowa. They drove him down just because of the shipping.
Oh, yeah, to ship that? I mean, that's $1,000 probably.
Yeah.
God, man. So Charles says, hey, I've broken brand new burrs back in the day.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
I've had some heads fly off. That's pretty scary.
Really? From the shaft?
Well, not from Greg, but other ones.
No, but from the shaft.
Yeah.
I wonder how they're attached. They must be
bonded somehow. I don't know if it's a cold weld or I don't know how they do it, but it definitely flew off. It scared me.
Turner Wrenching Channel. Good to see you here. As I just switched from a hand drill to a real die grinder, Viva Electric deal. How do you keep from messing up top of the intake plenum when porting the runners?
You don't.
Careful.
You can tape it. It doesn't work. Yeah. I honestly, if they're really bad, I will surface it. But everything that leaves here, and if that's one of the reasons why I do it, I hit it, all of them with 60 grit DA paper. You can DA a ton of those scratches out. And that's why I do it, because I am telling you, a gasket will seal it up just fine.
Yep.
But there is no way around it. There is no way around it. Not that I've found anyway.
Okay. There you go. Be careful and run it over with some 60 grit and you're golden, brother.
Yeah.
Chevy, he says, what do you think about 10-degree heads? Would you port those, and is it possible to have less degree than that to make more power, or is 10-degree it?
You can roll them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can definitely roll them. Yeah. So, like, I don't know if he's talking about a small block. Let's just assume a small block.
That's what I thought, yeah.
So back in the day, what we were using for comp were 15 degree 615Xs. And I was literally angle milling them, rolling them, not the whole width. So I would take like 7 inches of the deck. So the last 2 would be the original angle. I was literally milling 290 thousandths off of them and making them 290 thousandths, or they're so about was made at 12.2 degrees. Took 2.8 degrees off of it from a 15 degree.
Wow.
Now, it required a whole bunch of work to bolt holes. Yep. You could literally cut your finger on the back row of bolt holes because it was so thin. But yeah, it was definitely worth all the effort.
Okay.
Definitely. Yeah.
There you go. Hopefully that answered your question.
The big block, now they've got them all. You know, I've literally had some BES, like old heads here, 24 degree big block heads. They get rolled to 21.5. So they were something to see. You could see the weld on them and the angle of the bolt holes, and it's a whole lot of work. You know, like the super stock stuff, it all gets rolled. The profiler stuff will get rolled, but here's the beauty of both of those. They have generous enough bolt holes in them to where I can roll them about 115 thousandths.
And not have to change
not have to touch the bolt holes.
I mean, think about how much time it takes. Yeah.
Doing bolt holes is brutal.
Chopper Scott says, thank you, sir. Couldn't agree. It's all in the hands. Yes, it is. Just like a surgeon doing heart surgery. That's how I look at it, you know?
Yeah.
RRD Performance. Sup, boys?
Oh.
Good to see you here. Argentina's coming in. Mariano. Hello, Tim and Chad. Regards from Buenos Aires. Can you talk about the heads and the engine you make to Southwestern Gasser class?
So that would be like the nostalgia deal. So you know what's those guys, you can run an aluminum head in it, but it has to be painted.
Painted, okay.
Yeah. But what I was supplying with those is it depends on what some of those guys are running a small engine. Some of those guys were running a bigger engine. I probably have like 6 sets out of them. But they're literally all the V factors, just hand finished.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Just
hand finished, tailored. You get some of the guys that want to turn the heck out of it. They had the big head on it. I had a guy that had like a 370, and we put a set of the 250s on it, and it was lazy because he didn't want to turn it hard enough. So I trade back for him. We put a set of 2.5s on it, and it runs a lot better. So depending on what engine, but yeah, they were all the profilers. And then some of them have big blocks in it, and they all have like a TX4, whatever that Holley tunnel ram was with 660s.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Mariano, if you want to know anything about the V-Factor cylinder heads, talk to Shelton Bars. He's on here now from LGM. He can hook you up with that. So he's on here. You can even talk to him on the chat. Thank you. And hope Argentina's nice right now.
Yeah, I hope everything's going well over there.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Very.
Jamie Brown says, 9 a.m. down here in Australia and getting over the knowledge hangover from yesterday's live chat. Nice. I'm up for drinking and more top shelf knowledge today. That's it. Knowledge is power. That's what I always say.
Yep.
We appreciate you. Now, this is a question. I heard you talk about it, but I missed the name. So CD says, what fuel is so corrosive when you're talking about?
So the NHRA has a spec rule or a spec fuel.
Yeah.
So like out of the VP stuff, like the CO10, 11, C12, C25, all that stuff is now like guys that don't run super stock and use like Q16, it's by far the worst. It'll literally look like the carburetors will look like you ran it on alcohol for 10 years.
Wow.
So I recommend all my guys, I recommend draining the bowls. After you're done racing for the day, after going home, drain the bowls. Freaking get yourself some Foggett, or there's other stuff. I use WD-40 in the day. But it will literally, when I took my engine apart this last time from using Foggett, I told you that story. I was shocked. It was so clean. It was so clean. So the stuff works. Definitely works.
There it is.
Yeah.
Thanks, CD. None says, Tim, you worked your way into an awesome group of guys. You know what? I'm going to tell you something. I have done that the best I could, but you know where the help comes from? Above. So you guys make sure that you give thanks for what you have tonight.
Absolutely.
Get on your knees and give a prayer and thank God that you're in America and that you got what you got. And I appreciate everybody that's here, because I wouldn't, you know what it is? You surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, and then I hope that some of it rubs off on me.
Yeah.
Through osmosis. So thank you for that. Jamie says, oh, we talked about that. Thank you for being here. Pontiac 411 says, I like big bulls and I cannot lie. There you go. And Alvin says, thanks, DragBoss, for sharing knowledge. I love your channel. Well, thanks for being here, guys.
So big bulls, real quick, like the V3, the 23 degree, you know, the one that you like pictures of.
Yeah.
It's got a 2-150 valve, and the bull's 2-250.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's huge.
I think it'd be too big. It's not.
It likes it.
We like big bulls. We cannot lie.
But it also has a wing on the floor. Ooh. Was that a secret? You know what I mean? Think about it.
Yeah. Up and over, baby. There it is. And direct down. Think about that. So thank you, Alvin. I appreciate that. And Nutbus, thank you for being here from Norway. We appreciate you. Hopefully it's got the sun going right now. It's not dark there. Alvin says, thank you, DragBoss, Drug Boss. I really appreciate all the knowledge that I gain on your channel. Well, thank you for being here, guys. We appreciate it very much. Wayne Scully says, hi, Tim and Chad. Good to see you here, Wayne. Okay, I'm getting too much here now, Alvin. Thank you, DragBoss. I gained so much knowledge. I really love your channel. And then, of course, I'm a Cleveland guy. There you go. There it is. It's in the blood, baby. Thank you, Alvin. Ken Moole says, if the bull remains smaller, say 90%, will it increase short side airspeed with a smaller bull and a bigger throat?
Yes and no. It depends, because that's where you gotta play with it. So depends on what head it is and how full the short side is, how much it's laid back, what the valve angle is, you know. So it all plays into, because sometimes you can, you know, when you have a small bull like that, you'll have to well on the short side so much to get it to flow or to slow the airspeed down that you'll lose all of your low flow.
Okay.
So that's how you know if you're getting too short or getting too wide. If you don't have a pitot tube, is if you start losing low flow, you're getting too big in that area. So you'll definitely lose low flow. You gain a lot at the high, but you know, if you got 800 lift and you got it at an inch, it doesn't really do any good. You know, it needs to keep going. You know, it doesn't need to gain big number, you know.
Perfect. Thanks, Ken, for being here. Tim Hilliard says, my spreadsheet for cams has Larry's 80% rule when running the numbers. A good head will show peak flow and 80% using the same duration.
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Eric says, Chad, do you port many stock casting cathedral port heads?
No, I don't. I've done a few by hand. I've got a couple sets here now, but the problem, and we spoke about this before, is you can send it to a CNC guy and $700 will cut them. And I'll stand back there for 25 hours and you're looking at $2,000. So what, it just doesn't pay off, you know? And
there again, Eric, Terry Wilkes Performance. Now he has a lot of the LS stuff, so you can be talking to him. And same with LGM, they all both work together. Those are the guys you need to talk to.
Yep, for sure.
He's actually, I don't know if those are your CNC programs he uses, but
I've done some stuff for him. I've done maybe, I don't know, cathedral port. Most of the cathedral port stuff that I did have was all in a GM casting, because I'd use them for the Superstock guys. Have them run it. I did the program because they have a CC roll and they have all that. So I'd make it 2 cc smaller than what it needed to be so I could finish them by hand, that kind of deal. But I lost all that. So
yeah, you know, I was thinking about that because all those programs that you had were in that, whatever, the guy left or something, or moved or something, you told me.
Well,
you lost all that.
Well, supposedly the other guy's up and running. So
what
I was to do is to get a hold of him and figure out what we can do, and that'll be nice.
Michael Williams says, greetings from Australia. Thanks, Chad, for your time and your knowledge and willingness to share. Greatly appreciated. We appreciate you too. Thank you. Spread the word down under for us.
Definitely.
Nutbus says, I have an old SF110 flow bench that measures with 10-inch and not 28. What airspeed will be the same on 10-inch that 28 350 FPS?
Might have to use a calculator. Well, it's actually whatever you're seeing at 10 inches times 67.2 is the number. So if you're seeing like, well, that would be for 28. So if you take 28 inches times 67.2, you should get 350. I don't know, but there's plenty of calculators online that will convert it for you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember what I should, but I don't know what that is.
It's all right. That's why we made pen and paper.
Yeah.
Jamie Brown says, Chad, are the areas in the port or situations where you don't apply a burr type texture finish, such as on the short side?
Yeah, not on the short side. It'll always be smooth. Now, I've said it before, where I'm sure there's areas in the port that they don't need to be burred, but I find it just as easy to make it uniform and just do it. But the short side will definitely be cartridge rolled on the back side, and then just at the top of the apex I'll do it. Well, actually, what I usually do, here's probably another tip. It's really hard to get in there and make a nice short side. So what I'll do is I have one of those, it's a head center, like Proform made it, where you can bolt it to a bench. It's got the two arms that come up where you can set a head on it through the head bolts. Yep. Okay, I'll do that after I'm done, and I'll go to Harbor Freight, and they have like a roll of 80 grit 2-inch wide. So I'll tear off a piece and I'll strip it, and I'll put it in the port, and I'll rub it back and forth all the way across that short side, and it just makes it nice. Yeah, you got to have the shape right. You're not going to put shape in it, but you got all the high spots off. It just makes a really nice, smooth going over the short side.
Dave McLean, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you here, Dave. He donated $5 to DragBoss Garage. I've always learned and very much enjoyed the info that Chad shares on his YouTube channel.
Thank you.
So, guys, any money that you donate, it goes right to Chad for his time here. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to send it to Chad. So thank you for that.
Keep it coming,
McLean. We appreciate you. And let me see where we are. Catch up now. We have 124 people. I mean, last time we had close to 200 people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That just blew me away. God. And there it is. Tim says, Ford just sent us some Godzilla heads. 36 pounds, fully assembled.
Wow. That's crazy.
It is. Justin West says, epic live chat, guys. I have GMPP fast burn heads on a 383 2-inch valve.
That's a good head.
246 at 050.
Yep. Yeah, I used to have a couple CNC programs for that head because a lot of the 2-barrel circle track classes had to run that head. So it was a lot easier doing a program. They were limited to like 200 cc port. So I was using the small one, the small port. But it's definitely a good head.
Now, I don't know if that sounds like, with that valve, with that duration, it sounds like more of a streetcar or something.
Like streetcar, yeah.
Yep. Ty says, I use the body of a ballpoint pen on the burr shafts to keep from grinding grooves and stuff.
That's a good idea.
I use the body of a ballpoint pen.
Just puts it over it.
Okay, yeah. Very good. Good idea. Thank you, Ty. Brian says, amen. Amen to that, too. We keep the faith. Thank you, Brian. Jeff Ott's saying, Chad, do you have a glass bead iron head ports to get coated here without trapping moisture and causing lift?
No, I mean, I don't. If he's talking about like applying epoxy or something, I just grind it real good and clean it with acetone. Or I bought one of those Beaver, cheap Beaver, what do you call them? Sonic washers.
Yep.
I haven't been able to get a head in it, and it seems to do okay. But I have a buddy that had one of those big glass beaters like that that he would glass port it all and you could do whatever you want to it. But I've never found the need for one. But I also bake the epoxy, so that probably draws all the moisture out of it.
Okay, perfect. You know what? You're right. Thanks, Charles. Thank God every day. Yep.
Fact.
Definitely. Elvin says, hey, man, on that call is mint. I couldn't give more glory to God for the knowledge you have and being in America. We're very fortunate people, man. I think people overlook that. They've lost that. I don't know what you call it, but it's not like it should be to me.
Common sense.
It is common sense. You're right. Eric, thank you for donating $20. We appreciate that. Chad can have coffee tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And Peter says, in Pro Stock, we use spray WD-40 through carb roll engine without plugs. The VP16 fuel was a reason. If not, carbs, etc., was full of the white stuff. Yeah.
It was powdery, and it would mess everything up. Everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And WD-40 is really just kerosene.
Yeah.
Kerosene.
But the stuff they have nowadays, it's fact. I buy it by the case. I just get it straight from Stennett. He's the one that invented it, and I use it for everything in the shop. It's expensive. It's like $20 a can.
What is it?
Yeah, Foggett.
Foggett. Okay.
Yeah, I'll use it for tapping holes, for porting. The cool thing about porting is you put it in a port, like WD-40, you put in a port.
Yeah.
It'll like throw like black stuff off or cartridge roll stuff. This stuff will just kind of like dissipate. Think about it in an engine. It doesn't burn off. It just kind of dissipates and goes away. So it's really cool for porting. It makes it a lot easier. I've tried it all for porting.
So this guy.
Gary Stennett. Oh yeah. Yeah, he's a Kansas guy. Yeah.
Maybe we should have him on for a live chat and get his history and find out how he got to where he is.
Yeah, he's won like a Super Comp World Championship like 3 times.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's that's what he does for a living, is build engines. Stennett Automotive. Yeah.
And he's from Kansas.
He's from Kansas.
It's a win-win situation, man.
Euphoria. Yeah.
Chevy says, I don't remember if I asked this before to you guys. Who can make raised rudder heads, 23 or 21 degree heads, again, that isn't all pro? Or can someone copy RHS 21 or whatever others are Brodix?
I honestly don't know of anybody. All pro.
Yeah.
The All Pro has one. There's just nothing out there. It's too bad too. But both of those that you mentioned, I mean, the RHS 21 was a great head. I mean, but there isn't anyone. I tried to get Profiler to make one, but they just didn't think there would be a demand for it.
Big call for it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Joel DeBose says, hi, late, but here. Don't let it happen again, Joel.
Nope.
We need you here. Now, Shelton came back on. He says, we've got programs for all OEM LS heads.
There you go.
Okay. So there you go, guys. That's the man to talk to. LGM. That's his company's name. You could probably type your contact information in there, Shelton, if you want. We got 130. I said 29. Now it just jumped up to 31. 131 people. So thank you. Now, this is a strange request, but he did donate $20, so you may have to do something about this, Chad.
Okay.
He says, Tim, can you make Chad show us his cat?
She'll be here in a minute. Kitty. We'll find her.
That's what I love about this, man, because we're all the same type of people. We're just having fun and enjoying our life what we can.
She was here earlier.
He'll be back.
Oh, yeah.
Probably got to eat or something. Getting a mouse. Joe Kramer says, have a Profiler 210 angle plug. The spark plug is flush in the intake valve side, but on the exhaust, it is recessed around 3 threads. Do you think this will cause plug wetting?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I'd want to see some threads. And actually, I tell you what, here's something cool. And I've never done this and I had a lot of calls on all the years I was doing it. I'm going to do a 210 master for Terry, and he's going to offer a CNC program for it.
Terry who now? Wilkes?
Terry Wilkes, yeah. Okay. So anybody that's got a 210 profiler will now have a CNC program. But yeah, I don't. You need to see some threads, because if nothing else, it'll help keep the threads clean. It'll help keep everything clean. Yeah, that's a bad situation there.
You know, Darin talked about it last night on our members only live chat about Brodix had made a head, actually. It was a canted valve head, and the plug was recessed, and it would get wet. It wouldn't work unless you lean the engine out so far to get it to run.
Yeah, they end up hurting something, all because they can't.
Oh, yeah.
I usually try to leave 2. I try to see 2. That's kind of what my rule is.
What is it?
2.
Yeah.
2 threads.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay. Thank you. Justin West says, epic live chat. Thank you. You're welcome. I have a 383 with GMPP fast burn heads ported to the 1289 gasket. 2-inch valve, 11-to-1, the 238, 246, and 050, 546, 565-inch, 108 lobe separation. Would an Edelbrock 2814 be an ideal intake for a street strip deal?
Perfect.
There it is.
Yeah. Let me put it to you this way: if they made that 2814 a manifold a lot like that 2814 with a conventional flange, because that's I would run it on the super stock stuff. Really? It's a good manifold. Yeah.
Is it available?
Yeah, you can get it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's got the, you know how a Vortec head's got the bolts that are up and downs.
Yeah.
So kind of like a
angle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
Brown, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's a good manifold.
Jamie Brown said, come on, guys, 124. There's 136 watching right now and only 63 likes. Smash the like buttons. Do it, because that's what gets us in the algorithm to move on up with the big guys like Cletus McFarlane or whoever there are. I don't even know. Charles says, what kind of flow do you get on super stock 170 Chevy through the carb?
I got 265 out of mine with the carb, with a 780 and the carburetor and the manifold.
Okay.
And if you take 265 and do the math for how much power it should make, it pretty much made that power. So there again, that don't lie either. But yeah, it's and sometimes it's really hard because you got so much angle milling going on both the head and, I mean, it's hard to get everything. I actually tell Charles, or I'll tell him, on my YouTube channel, there's a video of me flowing it through the carburetor and the manifold.
So there you go. Check out Chad's channel if you're not already subscribed.
It's about 10. It's about 10. A good manifold, a good cast manifold, about 10 CFM. Okay. Sometimes down low, honestly, it'll flow more. And I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with you're a genius or the manifold's something. It's simply because you have it lined up. You have your manifold square with your opening. You're relying on a plate. You're relying on clay. And sometimes that can fudge it a little. So I've seen that before. I've literally seen guys online saying my manifold's really good. I put it on. It flows 3 or 4 more at 1, 2, and 3 than it did without it. Yeah, it's the way you got your radius plate. It's not the manifold. Okay. You're just more accurate. You got a better testing method. Yeah.
There you go, Charles. Thank you. Chris Stavros says, hi, Chad. Can you share your technique for extending the short side radius around the throat, the wings? I tend to wipe them out.
With the wing. So what I do is, if the head isn't going to be CNC'd with a wing in it, that's another story. But the wing will go in last. So, yeah. So I'll do everything I'm going to do to the port, figure out where I want it, get all of them shaped the same, and have maybe a wing in that one that I'll have to touch up with more epoxy. Then all the rest of the 7, I'll wait till I'm completely done with that port. Then I'll put that wing in the rest of the ports. If I'm CNCing it, I'll do the same thing, but then obviously it's going to be metal. The wing will be metal. But and another time I recognize that is like when I have like the super stock, because the super stock head has a wing that goes all the way to the seat ring in the throat, in the back of the bowl, to shrink it up. So when I valve job it, I'll wipe it out. It'll always take that whole, so I'll have to go back in there after I valve job it. I usually put a little bit of piece of tape on it, and then I'll have to use my finger and just form the last little bit section of the wing, because I'll wipe it out every time.
Okay. So it's not unusual. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Yeah. Yeah.
RW82 says, planning a build with All Pro LSW-1 290cc head, CRN throat. I don't know if that's CR. Is that a CRN coat? Oh,
Coated.
okay. Tie valve, moly coated stem. Will this help motor live on street and strip? Should make 800 horsepower, 430, 13-to-1 R block.
Yeah, I think the coatings definitely help. But what I would do, and I'm sure he does, if it doesn't have a beryllium seat in it, I'm not 100% sold on a beryllium seat on the street. But the Killer Bee, which is 15% copper, they work well. And I don't know if Bob at All Pro's using those. He may be.
Okay.
But if they got ductile iron in it, you definitely want it CRN coated. You don't really need that if it has the beryllium in it. You can get by with a just a moly coated stem. But what I would do with the valve situation depends on what he does with the seat.
Okay.
Yeah.
It says what seat alloy works with titanium.
LS7 has a Del West titanium valve, but it has that Durabond 15% copper seat in it.
From the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the Del West valve is coated. Yeah.
Dakota, last time out. Good to see you here from John Wilburn's channel. Ever dyno tested rough versus smooth textures on intake ports?
Not so much on intake ports, but I've done a whole lot with the manifolds. I mean, like back to back, pulled it off, did it right then and there. They always have the same characteristics, want less fuel. Numbers seem to be tighter, very specific seem to be tighter. Head-wise, here's the way I look at the heads. A really, really good CNC guy will use his step over to help with velocity, localized boundary layer, that type of deal. So some of the stuff that I had early on, you could see in the roof to where it had really nice fine step over, and then it get to right above the apex, start getting wider, 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 and the back of the bowl totally looked terrible because it was just like not uniform like the rest of it. There was a reason. It's because we were playing with the step over. I found later on that it was just as easy to make the step over the same. So in other words, what I'm saying is, if I hand finish, say like a V Factor or my boat heads or the super stock heads, they all get burr finished on the intake side.
Okay.
Because it's manipulating the boundary layer, which is no different than CNC lines. It's exactly what you're doing with a CNC line. It's manipulating it. So I know Larry Moe. Larry Moe's got a dyno, and he's back to back all of that stuff. And he'd tell you right now, if he was sitting here, that there's power in texturing the intake ports. He'd tell you because he's done it.
Well, you told me you did it at the racetrack.
Did it with a manifold.
Right? You said the guy said, "Oh yeah, I don't want it done," but you said,
I had a local guy come in, and he had his heads updated, and he had a manifold, and I go, "What do you want to do?" And he says, "Port," and I said, "Well, I want to finish it burr," and he's like, "I don't want to do that. I want it smooth," because he was an old timer, and polished. And I'm like, "All right, so here's what we're gonna do. You go to the racetrack, and on the 2-day race, I'm coming down. We're gonna pull it off right in the trailer, and I'm gonna do it." And I did it. And like I was saying, he had AFRs and he had exhaust temperatures, and he tuned it to where he thought it was the best. And that night we pulled it off, and I took my Makita with me, and I had it done in 60 grit, real pretty. And I totally burred it all out and put it back on. Weather was pretty close to the same the next day. Tuned it to the exact same AFR and exhaust gas temperature, and it was 600s. And it took less jet.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, all my manifolds are that way, and it has nothing to do with being lazy. I just, I don't know. I never had it not Never had it lose power doing that. You know, I've literally, Cobb is literally, well, and actually, let's not pick on Cobb. Let's pick on another guy. I had a guy that was doing a lot of circle track Ford Clevelands.
Yep.
Okay. At the beginning, we were using Blue Thunders because we could get them. And at that time, we were paying $400 from Francis for a cat. Yeah. Okay. We bought a pallet of them. He went through them. The next ones we ordered were like 800 a piece because they were popular now.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So he decided, he said, I got to do something. I'm like, well, okay. So we picked on the Procom, did a CNC program for it. I'm like, they're not near as good. He goes, I know. And I'm like, let's just see how close we could get. So he sent me, I don't remember what the Super Victor number is of Ford. I'd have to go 28. Yeah, 28. Okay. So we did a 28. I did it really nice. He goes, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. So I sent it to him. He dynoed it, left it on the dyno after he made it make as much power, sent it back. I burr finished it.
Yeah.
Sent it back to him. Some spots was about 20 horsepower. No lie. Wow. Down low. Yeah. And then up high, it kind of caught up with each other. And I think at the end of the day, it might have been like 8 average better. Now you got to remember there's some things there, like had to run a 4150 carb.
Yep.
They had like spacer rules. There were some rules in place, but yeah. And then everything I did for him after that had to be textured.
I mean, think about it, pulling off around the corner, you know, with that car, lower RPM. I mean, that thing, 20 horsepower is a lot, man.
Yeah, exactly. Shit. Yeah, I got the dyno sheet somewhere. I'll see if I can find it.
Yeah, it'd be fun to
I
put
used
it
to
up.
talk about this stuff all the time, and I used to post it up on my webpage and stuff, and people give me a hard time, and I'm like, I'm done. It's not worth it.
They don't have time for that kind of games.
Nope, not anymore.
So Pontiac 401 says, I cleaned up my short turn with a 40 grit sticky back paper stuck to my finger.
Yeah.
It creates what is called riblets in the sailboat world, aka grooves in the direction of flow.
Yeah. I've literally taken the same emery cloth and put it over my finger and then taped it around there and then worked it like this.
Okay.
Yeah, but then you end up cutting these because you're trying to get it so far. So I just found it's easier just to, and actually I used to have one. Harbor Freight sold like a long, narrow file, air file.
Yeah, there was a little belt on it. Yeah.
I could use one of those. But then I found sometimes if I wasn't careful, I put a flat spot in it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So I got away from that, and it's amazing. It's amazing. You can have one that's a little, not real uniform and do that, and it just cleans it right up. It's pretty cool. Yeah, does a good job.
But you don't want the scratches. Do you want them one direction?
I just make sure I go back and forth. Yeah, I mean it's hard to go this way and get anything done. So and it's another thing you got to like wrap it around your finger, then hold it out when you're in the throat, because if you get too close, you'll totally round off some edges on a.
Oh valve.
Yeah. So you got to be careful. Yeah. But I do that on about every head.
Okay. Steve says, to avoid plug wetting, grind chamber square to plug body. Eliminate the cavity and leave chamber on incoming side to shield plug from fuel wash.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Steve. Don Dotter asks, on a single plane small block Chevy intake, what taper, radius, and shape going from the carb flange to the runner entry?
So that's really hard. So I found a calculator online to where you can literally put in like the length of the runner, your opening, and your exit, and it'll figure the taper for you. Okay, it's pretty cool because you don't have no math involved. Yeah. So what I found was most of the openings of a manifold are what they are. You can get them, and if you make the openings bigger, you're just going to make the divider narrower, and I think that probably defeats all of the purpose of having the right opening size, because you're really making that divider narrow. So what I try to do is I used to shoot for like 5% taper.
Okay.
And the opening, I will run Pipe Max and see. Pipe Max will say small opening, large opening, recommended opening, and I'll stick somewhere to that. I'll stick to the recommended. Now the super stock stuff, I've been all over. I mean, they've only got like Let's say the opening is like let's say it's 2 inches, okay, because it's got a half-inch corner radius. I've done it to where I've had it from 3-inch opening to a 2-inch and had about 6% taper, and I've done it 3.5 inches to 2 inches, and it sure seems like the tighter I keep it, the more torque. So, and obviously more torque's going to be more power,
right.
But it just seems to, it's not as, it's more flat. Everything's just a lot tighter. So like the manifold that I did, the last manifold I did for me, I ended up having like 3-1 at the opening and a 2-inch exit where I stopped. So, and what I've done since then is if you go on my page and just go under, I think it's CNC heads maybe, and click on it, there'll be a section and it'll say formulas, and it'll have a manifold lengths. And I probably have 15, 20 small block openings and lengths. So you can kind of pick something close. But I definitely recommend something like Pipe Max. And the reason why I think it works so well is because Larry just didn't pull that stuff out of the hat.
Right.
It came from dyno work. It came from 40 years of work. So it's legit, hardcore, down to earth. You know, that's what it is, and that's why it works so well. But yeah, that's never failed me.
Perfect. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Chad. Love your formulas. Get a steak on me, and next time I'm in Kansas City, I will buy the coffee.
Yeah.
It's 50 euros. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that so much. Darin, good to see you here. What's up, Tim and Chad? Jared Fowler, you probably have answered this before, but I have a set of CNC ported 317 LS heads. I was wondering if I should 60 grit the runners or not. I don't know if I will see a difference to make a difference.
What I would do is I would just run your finger along the short side, and if you feel any of the tooling transitions, take all that out. I would take your 60 grit and I would polish up the short side, like we talked about, and then I would run it. I would just take out anything that makes a nice smooth transition. But I don't have a, I don't have a problem with the CNC lines.
Okay.
They help.
I bet you they do. They help break up the droplet, atomization.
Yeah.
I got to put this up. I wouldn't normally, but I got to put it up. Pontiac 411 says, how much to get Chad to twerk?
Nope.
That's 100 euros, my friend. Lone Renter says, I got a set of GMPP 23-degree aluminum NASCAR heads for the 90-degree V6 that were ported by Ray Baker and Gary Carmack.
Yeah, they're pretty old, huh? Yeah.
Are those guys around?
I don't know. I really don't know.
If they're not, RIP, guys. Thanks for what you did. We appreciate it. Joel says, Chad nailed it on the LS heads. Programs everywhere. Costs less time to get a set ported than getting them done by hand.
Exactly.
You got to be smart when you're spending money on a racing engine.
Yeah.
Racing program. Michael Williams, Chad, the idea that if your pitot tube measure pressure equals your test pressure, it equals 350 FPS.
Yeah. So basically the rule is if you're flowing at 28 inches, you don't want to see anything over 28 inches in the head. That would be over 350. Yeah. So if you're doing it 10 inches, it'd just be exactly the same thing. That's pretty simple. It'd be exactly the same thing.
Okay.
You don't want your area velocity, localized velocity, any higher than what you're testing at.
There you go, Michael. Thank you. Joel says, Chad, what do you attribute the power gains on the manifold that you cut way down? Was it because of straightening the ports, equal lengths? What do you give the credit towards?
Honestly, I think the plenum volume. I think the plenum volume, even though I tried to get all the plenum volume by making the clover that big.
I
think the problem is how do I want to say it? I think I couldn't get any spacer on it. So I had to use my drop in. And I think that all of that stuff hanging in the plenum probably didn't like that either. So I was able to get like an inch floor hole to open on it, and it helped straighten that air out. I think that's probably the key. It was straight while I hit the plenum, and then it did what it needed to do. Whereas before, I was directing it in there. Plus, I was taking the plenum volume with the spike in the thing. I mean, so I was shrinking it up. But the runner lengths, and I did get them all the same. They were all 4.5 inches when I was done. Okay. So the head's 5 inches. Those were 4. It's only like 9.5 inches total length, which I was kind of worried about it, but it seemed to work. I don't know though. I mean, it may not work. It hasn't been down the track yet either. So.
And this is kind of part 2, which you kind of answered while pouring the Victor E head that you cut. What was your focus on? I saw that you filled it and ported it several times.
I was just trying to get more plenum with a flat top so I could get more spacer on it. That was my goal. Because see, before with the manifold that I had in the car with the Victor E, even though I milled the wedge out of it, I could only run about maybe a 1/4 inch spacer. And I was only probably that far from the hood. That's it. So now I have a full inch spacer on it. I have the same amount of plenum or a little more. I have all the same length runners, and I have that much spacer on it to where it can straighten the air out before it goes down. I think that's the biggest. Thing.
I mean, the other way, you're close. That vent is close. Was it the vent tube that was close to the hood?
Oh yeah. I had to run tubes on it. It was so close.
Okay. Let's see here. Eric, I saw dyno charts of Chad's Vortex small block Chevy heads, and if I remember correctly, they made 567 horsepower with a solid roller 383.
Yeah, I think so. I remember that. Yeah.
Justin, thanks you for answering that question that you answered before. Thank you. Turner Wrenching Channel says, the area at the carb pad where I boogered it up with the Vevor die grounder affect performance. It's like a little 45-degree angle. I will blend it out and use an HVH spacer.
No. In fact, some of the edges on it, when I'm done, I'll actually literally do put a 45 on it to take all that nastiness out.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're doing the right thing. And I tried those Vevor grinders. I didn't mind them. One of them didn't last very long, and one of them's still going.
I think I remember you posting about that.
Yeah, they have a built-in speed control in them, so you can really slow it down or really speed it up.
Now it's electric, right?
Yeah, electric. Yeah.
Wayne Skelly says, I think 2814 is conventional 6-bolt pattern. Kind of makes for a slightly taller port for profiler heads 2930.
Oh, okay. You're right. Yeah.
Is a Vortex bolt pattern.
Okay, so the 2814 might be the one you can't get now, and the 13 is it because of the Vortex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chevy says, on a circle track 2-barrel 350 or 360 cubic inch rule, how much compression is too much? Like is 14 or 14.5 optimal, or can 16 be possible to gain more horsepower?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think compression's your best friend. I mean, I would put in it as much as you can put in it, and and be safe about it. You know, I mean, think all the advancements and like the R23 degree that made the big power in it, it had a ton of compression in it. But that was the only way we were going to get it there, and the reason being is because a 23-degree head is the most inefficient cylinder head on earth. So you got to make it up somewhere.
Jerry says, is there a better head for the super stock Cobra Jet than the Edelbrock 61857?
That I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know. All I can tell you about what I know from the Edelbrock stuff is it's going to take a lot of work. I mean, the Ford stuff may be closer, but yeah, I don't know. I've never seen one. I really haven't.
Okay. Joel says, Chad, does a port see the area alone? Or does it only see area minus boundary layer? Do you size the port differently for a very rough surface?
No, but I mean, the only thing I can comment on is I would have to say that, yeah, the area sees the air different. I think that the boundary layer, I mean, I think you can see that with a pitot tube, you know, because you can literally put the pitot tube on the wall and just start moving it over and over and over and seeing where there's no activity and then when it really speeds up. So I think that's what you're ultimately trying to do is trying to move the flow and the viscosity and everything further off the wall, you know. And I think that's probably why I just concentrate on the center, because it probably in the beginning threw me for a loop, you know, like, why is this doing this? But I don't think I've never flowed it. I've never flowed ahead. Come to think about it, I've never flowed it and had it have the same effective cross section. In other words, the burr finish, I'm not going to call it putting a drag on the wall, which that would be the simple terms, but it will affect the average velocity in that area over a smooth wall. It'll slow it down is what I'm saying. So it won't flow any less air. It'll flow exactly the same amount of air, but the velocity profile will totally change. Totally. And I've done that. I've actually got something on my site where I did that. Took the same head on the flow bench, did a nine point in it, averaged all that out, smooth, took the same port, burred it out, did exactly the same thing, and you can see the difference in the numbers.
I like that stuff.
Difference. And it flowed exactly the same within 2.
But it ain't on the track, so there's a difference right there.
Track engine, same engine that manifold went on.
Oh, okay.
Same guy. We were doing it all that time. So
Really?
He wanted to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Williams, 5,600. Thanks for a $5 donation. Chad, thanks for answering his question. Well, we appreciate you being here. And like I said, there's 160 people now. So that's up from 129. So that should be 160 likes. So don't forget, guys. Lone Wrencher says, I have a Chevy 90-degree Oddfire V6 built by Earnhardt's V6 builder. It's fresh with rockers off. What do I need to do to crank it? Dry sump? What do I need to do to crank it? Dry sump? I'm kind of missing the point of that. So Lone Wrencher, throw some more info so we know what you're asking. Budget Pro Mod. We've seen you before. Great stuff, guys. Thanks for all the info. It's priceless. You're right. It definitely is. I mean, no one does this. I don't know any other YouTube channel that has guys like Chad or Darin on here, or the people that we have with their knowledge base and experience willing to share. So thank you, Chad, again for being here. Ty from Damn Mopar People. Chad, might be a stupid question, but how much effect do you think reshaping or shrinking the valve guide boss has versus the factory shape? I've never seen any mention of measuring the cross-sectional area around that.
No, I think it's ultra important, especially the vein in the back, because it's basically carrying away all the nasty vortexes and all the nastiness out of the fluid. And you can literally, and the reason why I tell you that they're really important and there's really something there is because the perfect example is a 7721 Ford. It doesn't have a vein in the back of it. It just has a guide. It has one in the front, just a small one, but a lot of those I was literally epoxying the vein in the back, 10 CFM easy.
Really? Yeah.
It just helps carry it, you know. And like I was saying earlier before that, you know, a good port will reattach itself, so you can stick something in the port at 28 inches, and that you should see the manometer go up, then you should see it drop right back down to 28 and go right back to the same flow. Even though that area cross section shrinks down, it should flow exactly the same if the shape is right. So, and I think the wing is definitely something that helps carry everything through the port. But yeah, And if it did, and it's really not that critical shrinking it there or adding material in it, because if you look at any modern day super stock head, they're loaded with epoxy in the front and the back and the side of the guide. Wow. Okay. So it's not hurting power, but it's definitely helping the port. Yeah.
There you go. So you know it works. Do it. Yeah. Thanks, Todd. Kerner Wrenching says 383 small block Chevy, 8th mile drag race, 2,800 pounds. Engine peaks at 7,000. Where would you target converter to flash foot brake?
Well, the way I would do it is if it peaks at 7,000 and you want to go through the lights at 7,500 and you want a 1,500 RPM window, that's 6,000. Yep. Don't care where it peaks torque at. It's all because it's all about running it in that power where you want it to run. If you want a 2,000 power band, you want to go through at 7,500, then you need 55. So I mean, that's how I've done it since I was a kid. You know, I know a lot of guys will look at the torque, and if it torques at 6,100, they'll want 300 or 400 over it, and we've never done it that way. You know, like, well, here's a prime example. A freaking, say, like a CED comp engine will peak power at 10.2. They go through at 10.5, 10.7. Guess what? The converter stalls? 95, 9,700.
Yeah. Wow.
Because they're keeping it. And some of those guys want 1,000 RPM window.
Do they really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane, man.
Yeah. So that's how I would do it. The foot brake, in all honesty, that's going to throw a little bit of a. How do I want to say it? I have some foot brake guys, don't get me wrong, but I don't know as if I've really pushed or got their ear on that stuff, you know, because it's a whole different world. It's a little different.
I mean, compared to the throttle being wide open on a brake.
Yeah, compared to a brake. Yeah.
And he says, what would you target on gear drop as well?
Well, I got a really good converter will drop 600, if that, you know. We just did that one for the Dickey's car, and who was it? Neil Chance said it was a bolt together, and it's got a power glide in it, and it dropped 5. You could barely see the tack move. Stalled at 75, dropped to 75, went to the lights at 85.
We talked about this before we came on the air, that, you know, my converter's 28 years old. It flashes at 62. According to AI, when I ran my numbers, I need to flash at 65 or 6. Because it makes peak torque at 6,600. Yeah. But it drops 1,400.
Yeah, that's too much.
Yeah.
Giving it a lot away. And that's the nice thing about a data logger is it'll tell you all that if you have one.
Yeah, I'm cheap right now. Wait till I buy one.
A tack will tell you, though.
Yeah, playback tack all the time right there.
Yeah.
Pontiac 411, I'm a Texan. I got no euros. Chad would possibly know me from some DV conversions or speed talk as Gary C.
Okay.
Well, good to see you, Gary.
Yeah.
Cobalt 512. Do you have any experience with 4-valve heads?
No, thank you. Well, no, it's not me. And the real reason, I'll tell you why, is because I don't have the tooling. So I would have to get fixtures. I'd have to get pilots. I'd have to get, I don't have any problem with them. There's just a lot of people out there that are good with them, you know, and Darin could, that would be a good question for Darin.
I almost thought he said he didn't know a lot about it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't think he's done much of it either. Maybe a little when he was at Mast.
And here we go. Joel says, Chad, do you use the wind in Kansas for a flow bench?
It is windy, although it was 72 here today.
Wow.
Yeah, supposed to be 51 tomorrow.
Very nice. It was close to 60 here today, I think. BRR Racing, haven't seen you in a while, my friend. Hello, Tim and Chad. Good to see you. Lone Wrencher says, my little Oddfire V6 has exhaust extensions, each numbered to its cylinder, 1/2 inch thick with a stall bolt pattern for larger primaries. And I've heard they were tuned to each cylinder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what we'll do with the super stock head because they all run them. We'll literally make that plate match the header, and then the other side of the plate match the port.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pontiac 411 says, Chad, have you ever tried the industrial grade foot controlled Fordham? From my experience, they are more controllable and easier on the hands.
Not the industrial one, and that would be the one. I did try the other one, and I bought a couple extra little grinder deals, and I snapped that cable. Like, okay. So, and it could have been my fault. I mean, I was trying to take some material out with it, but I had a buddy that did a lot of duck carvings, and he had a Fordham, and I looked at it, and it looks like it'd be great for detail work. So I need to try that. I need to get one.
Thanks, Pontiac. We appreciate it. Dano says, Chad, if you're a guy resized titanium valves, who would be a good company to send for recoating?
For recoating, I would send them to Calico. Calico will do anything. Yeah. Yep. So I would send them to Calico. Really good company. And actually, I'll be honest with you, a lot of like my personal engines, if they're not Calico coated, I won't run the bearings. I've seen some stuff come off. So if it's not Calico coated, I'll just run a regular bearing in it.
I'm telling you, I drove my car with no oil pressure for over 2 minutes.
With a coated?
With coated bearings, man, and they were hammered. The rod were, but not bad. Not bad.
They're worth every penny.
I'm telling you, they are.
Yeah,
definitely. Eric says, Chad, do you think Killer B 15% copper seats will be better at stopping or absorbing bouncing valves than iron or steel seats?
No, I think at that point, if you got issues, you're going to have issues no matter what.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would probably, but you got to think about what's going on, man. There's so much nastiness going off on a valve seat. I mean, it's on and off so fast, and I really like those copper seats. The problem is the Durabond line. They're more catered to the LS stuff.
Okay.
So you can't buy like a 2160. It's a 2250. You can't. And if you want them to make them, they're really high. They have a minimum. So if you can get one that's in your, in your size range, and all of them that have a C at the end, and then when you do cut them up, they're definitely got a tint to them. They're definitely copper-ish looking. They cut kind of hard because they're centered, and they're a powder metal, but it's a good seat. I like ductile iron. I put CHEs in everything.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and then like I said, I just set 2 super stock sets of heads off to get cut, and they both have copper CHEs in them.
Lone Wrencher says, my V6, he was talking about that before the Oddfire, has been sitting since '89. And the rockers are off. I'm wanting to fire it up. Any precautions to dry some?
I'd roll it over.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely roll it over, and yeah, I mean,
that thing, baby.
Yeah.
Rings are probably going to be stuck in the.
Yeah, I'd pull the plugs out of it and definitely roll it over.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually had engines though, that like they always say you got to take the valve spring pressure off of them. But I think I've had some where they've had more on it when I went to check them. Like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. So it's a lot of work.
I don't do it, man. I've let my engine sit 6 years before I ran it in my car, and it ran faster than ever and never had any problems with the valve springs. So
I mean, I'd roll it over so it's not always in the same location, but
yeah,
they can lose.
I'm lazy though. Joel says the reason I asked about the finish and size is because I saw a manifold that was too big. It didn't run well, and the porter used a stone to rough the port. And on the track, it acted like a smaller port.
Yeah, because I think, like I said, it definitely does. You can plain as day see it with a pitot tube. I mean, it's quite a bit. It may be like average 25 feet per second slower. It's a bunch.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's noticeable for sure.
Yeah.
Ty says, Larry Smith told me to think of a port flow as river and ask me what's going on at the bank. Not a lot, he said. Told me to pay more attention to currents and eddies.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you see like water going over rocks and looks like it's going faster, it's not going faster. The rate's the same. That's velocity, because the rocks are shrinking up the area, so it's speeding up. Good way to think.
Point. That's a great analogy. Yeah. Thanks, Ty. We appreciate that. MHR says, do offset throats work with 45-degree seats? 23-degree small block Chevy 212.
Yeah, they wouldn't be like 50 thousandths or something like that, but they'll definitely be bigger front to back and side to side, simply because of the way you're blending into the valve job. So like on the back side of the wall, I'll blend all the way down. I'll blend into the 60. Okay, so you'll see it rough to the 60. On the other side, I'll blend well into the 60. So when you run your finger over it, it's just a nice transition. Even though, and it still has one sharp edge, because in my opinion, you need at least one sharp edge. But I'll also do it with burr, and it's rough. So, but I'll definitely get further into that 60, and it'll just be a nice transition.
Okay, thank you. Broke Joe Builds 5165 donated $10. Thank you so much. He's got a question. Big block Chevy 720 closed chamber head. I got 312 out of them. 219 with 3/8 stem. How much do I have left on the table? I was worried about breaking through.
Yeah, I'd be worried about that too. An 088 super stock head with a 219 3/8 stem will flow 370.
Wow.
At 320 cc's.
Okay.
And it's oval port. So, but the problem is breaking through, and the exhaust port sucks, and there's no short side on it, and they're just a mess. But there's some there. Yeah, there's definitely some there. There's probably some there by even guidelining it and putting 11/32 seconds.
Yeah, the valve stem.
Yeah.
There you go. Hey, Broke Joe, we appreciate you being here and donating. So thank you so much. Morning, Tim and Chad. Morning. I'm not sure where you're from, but it's getting evening right now.
He's in Australia.
It has to be.
He is, yeah.
Justin says, Chad, is 95% of the throat usually a good measurement to use from the apex of the short side to the roof? Thank you guys for doing this live chat. You're welcome.
Short side to the roof. Yeah, no, I would use my pitot tube. So what I would do, depending on what head, I've even done it on 23-degree stuff, is before I would even just go in there and start grinding, I will lay it on the floor and see what my speeds are, and I'll put it on the roof. You'll be shocked at how slow the roof is at the apex. It's really slow. So that's why, if you look at a lot of the current heads, the common wall is straight, and the other wall is like this. It's tied up at the top. They kick the floor out, make the floor wider, slow the airspeed down, because there's nothing on the roof. So the first thing you need to do is see if there's any activity on the roof. If there's none, I wouldn't take any material from the roof. You know, if it's fast, I mean, you'll have to get into like the spread port, something with a big valve, to get lots of activity on the roof. Any 23-degree, for instance, like a 230 Dart or 230 RHS, 20 feet per second, there's none. Yeah, it's really slow. Really slow.
Justin, thank you. We appreciate it. And then Bruce says, now that NHR, we kind of talked about this, has approved tie valves, are you worried about running out of valves?
I've never had any problem. The only one I've had problems with getting valves from is my Holliston Fieras. But I use Pro Valve, and I posted this up on the Class Racer site.
Yeah.
So a Victory makes a hollow stem stainless valve. With moly coating, they're like 180, and with CRN, they're like 240 each. Okay, a Fiera 202 5160 long will weigh 103 grams, hollow stem. I've been using a valve from Pro Valve, which Ralph used to work for Rev and went on his own. Same blanks as everybody else. That same valve, non-hollow stem, weighs 106, 3 grams, and it's not a hollow stem. You can get as many of those as you want. So that's what I've been using. But the problem, here's the problem, is they're not really hard to get. It's just that nobody makes a 194 or 184 for the small block stuff, and they have to cut them down. So it's a machine operation. So it adds another $25 to a valve. So now your freaking hollow stem Fiera might be $90 each. You know, so that's where. So I said earlier that I talked to my guys at Victory and Manley, and they're willing to put the titanium valves in. I'd rather sell a titanium valve at cost and put a titanium valve in a super stock head than pay too much for a steel valve.
Okay.
It's the way I look at it, you know. So I think at the end of the day, you'll be able to put titanium valves non-coated in a super stock head for $1,700, whereas a custom Fiera will cost $9,000. So you're looking at $800.
Wow.
What would you do? Yeah, I mean,
come on. Now, Zeke from Ferreira, he was going to be on in February, but he told me he's got something going on, so he's going to reschedule. So he's going to be on either this month or April. He's going to come on and talk about what they have to offer for valves.
We'll talk them into putting them in stock. Because if they're stock valves, they're a whole lot cheaper. You know, so what they do is they'll just take like a 202, or if it's a big block and it's a 2190, they'll take a 2250 and cut them down, you know, and then they charge the operation, which you have to.
Sure.
I get it, but they're pretty popular in this deal, you know.
I'll email them and see when we can reschedule. Pontiac 411 says, if rules allow a valve angle of plus or minus 2 degrees, will you roll a 23-degree head to 21, fill the floor? Raise the roof.
I don't know if you can get it to. I don't think you can get it to 21. That would be a bunch. So 125 is about a half a degree.
Okay.
And here's the thing. If you would check your piston, like all the shelf pistons are probably 22 and a half.
Got it.
So that's why I've always just stuck to. So like the heads that need like way more than what the angle mill does, I'll just flat mill the rest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Peter says, I've seen fuel marks at the guide with no veins.
Yeah.
When I ported them, made veins and CFM jump like crazy and no more fuel puddle mark.
Yeah, it helps carry all of it out.
That's it, man.
Yeah.
Keeps it going. Thank you, Peter. Shelton says, Chad, the tie valves we used in the boat heads were coated at Industrial Hard Carbon in North Carolina.
Well, that's good to know. They were nice. They were really nice.
Thanks, Shelton. BRR Racing says, working with Two Hacks Jeff today. Yes, I know who he is. Tim, building his late Bud Kyle 68 GTO engine today. 70 Pontiac 400 with a billet 4340, center 4-bolt mains, new scat 4-inch forged crank 433. Thank you. Yeah, his buddy died or something, and wanted, his dream was to get the car done. So these guys are
working on engines is always a good day.
Always a good day. Chopper Scott says, I was using a quarter-century old, that's 25 years, snap-on grinder. Now I use a Chief from Harbor Freight. Yeah. No matter what grinder or burr bit that one may be using.
Yeah. Like
Chad said, it's all in the hands.
I've got a couple of those Chiefs. I use them. And I'll be honest with you, I bought 3. The only one I haven't hurt is my duck. I haven't heard it, but they're $800.
What is it?
A Dotco, like Darin.
Oh yeah, that's what I have. Yeah.
So if all I had was one bit, I'm happy. I'm good. I'd use my Dotco, but I hate changing bits. So I got probably 8 of them back there. But I've been buying those Chiefs. They work. They're robust. They're heavy duty. I use the same 7 Cornwells for 20 years. Then they all went dead on the same week. But I still use a lot. I use my Makitas. I like my Makitas, and I like air. It puts a different finish on it too. People don't know that, but it does.
What, between electric and air?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the way that, yeah.
Speed?
Yeah, big difference.
RPM-wise, yeah. Speaking of finish, BRR says, I had to sand down the number 4 thrust bearing side faces by hand on a sheet of glass with 220 and 600. It was too tight. I think we've done that before on some things.
To do that with Marines as well.
Yeah. Eric, thanks. We appreciate you being here. Yes. I'd like to see Chad and Darin or both do a video showing their techniques using pitot tubes. I really think it's the most valuable part of using a flow bench, but all I hear is about CFM.
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that Harold Bettis always told me, that the flow bench was nothing but for visual aids and the lifeblood for a pitot tube. And I totally agree with him.
Well,
the flow bench, you could have a pitot tube. You could have one of those digital ones, but there's a lot to be learned in that pitot tube. I think most people would be amazed what you can find, how quick you can find the problem, where the problem is. Especially diagnosing a bad port, you can find it real quick.
Could you use it as a flow disruptor too?
Yeah, well, actually it will. It'll disrupt it, but that's the beauty of reattaching,
Take it out, okay.
But most of the, like the D680 has a depression control on her. So no matter what I put in there, it's always adjusting it to 28.
Well, I'll tell you, it would be good. Darin and I have been talking about that virtual porting thing, which I may end up setting up on a different platform where, even Chad would be welcome to come there and do a seminar where on board, like his shop where he works. And then I don't know, it's all in the works. There's so much to do. It comes down to time, Chad's time, Darin's time. And that's something you can't buy is time. So thank you. Chad, your 7721 small block Ford Edelbrock look amazing. Have you ever ported the 7709 Glidden?
Yeah.
I have a set of cast.
I did probably three sets for Marty Chance when he was running his nitrous steel.
Okay.
Yeah, they float a lot of air. They definitely float a lot of air. He hurt him too. He wasn't afraid to lean on it. But yeah, no, that 77, I've said that on the last one, that my favorite short side in the whole world is on that 7721. But the problem is that Kuntz casting is way nicer.
Is it really?
Thicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. The chamber's a little different, but that Edelbrock's definitely still runs hard.
Charles says, hello guys, a question about cross-section area. If I need an average of 2.65 and my push rod pinch is 2.32 and short side cross section is 3.05, do you average them to get the average?
You can. I mean, it's not telling you the truth. What you really need to do is measure the floor length, and then you need to CC at port, find out how big the port is, and then do the math, which would be like the port length times 16.387. And then that number divided by the CCs of the port will give you average cross section.
There you go, Charles. Thanks for being here. We appreciate it. 160 people have been on here for quite a long time. It's an hour and 43 minutes. Seems like only 10 minutes ago. Eric, Chad, are you opposed to using sewer lid lash caps with counterboard locks designed to fit them?
Like on a titanium valve, that's what he's talking about? If so, yeah, I hate with a passion hard tips. I'd rather have a lash cap.
Lash cap, yep.
Definitely, 100%.
And you can correct the geometry with a certain thickness depending on what you have,
Plus, it puts more contact area for the roller. It's just a way better deal.
Mm-hmm.
Titanium ones, if you're worried about weight, which they weigh less than a hard tip does, so it's a non-issue.
That's good about the contact area, that you're increasing that across the head of the, the tip of the valve.
Yeah.
Good point. This guy says, thanks for answering my questions on the Oddfire V6. Get it going, man. Fire that thing up. Joel says, if the roof is slow, The area in the back of the bowl is small. Either make the roof smaller and width of the short side radius wider, or increase the area of the back of the bowl.
Yeah.
It depends on where the air needs to go.
So that's the cool thing about a flow valve too, is you can stick it up there, and if it picks up air, CFM, you know whatever's directly behind it is the problem. That's the nice thing about any of those port interrupters, you know.
Eric says a bad day on DBG is better than a good day hunting or fishing. Damn right, man. Horsepower's it, baby. Thank you, Eric. What can Chad do to a set of eBay big block Chevy heads?
If they're aluminum, I can fully port them. If they're iron, I can't do anything.
There it is.
They're not bad. I just did a set. I got a set here now for a local guy that redid my trailer for me. They're a set of the Chinese heads, and
okay,
intake port is as good as it's good. The problem, I only think bad about it is they have a bulge in front of the wing because that's where the spring pocket is, which sucks. And the only thing I don't like about that whole head is that big square exhaust port. You can't do nothing with it. It's too big. It's square. Some of the newer ones that came from like Stevenson or Patriot, actually had like a Brodex looking exhaust port. They were a lot better head.
So Bruce is asking us, I thought you asked us before, who sells pitot tubes now?
Bruce at PTS.
That's it.
Yep.
So Bruce, it's Bruce.
Yep. Bruce at PTS.
Jeff says, I have had trouble on max effort TSP LS3 heads, keeping seats round. I believe my aggressive tune caused marginal seat ring support, causing a problem holding its shape.
Yeah, I mean, that 3, so an LS3 would probably have a 2-inch or a 202, and I don't know how big a seat ring's in those, but I've definitely, for some of the guys that run around a lot of nitrous, I've definitely put bigger seat rings in it for that reason, to give it more support. So like it might have like, some of those have like a 206 seat ring with a 2-inch valve. Getting pretty narrow.
Okay. And he said it was a 2185 valve.
Okay, so that's probably either a 2200 or still, I don't know how big a seat ring they put in those.
Well, I'm looking at the time. It's almost 2 hours, which is great. We have 152 people here. The questions are kind of coming down. You know, one of the things I thought we should talk about, Chad, is maybe get your take on some spacers.
Okay.
Okay. The oh my God, I got to put this up. Hi guys, Queen Izzy. That's my daughter. Thank you, Izzy, for being here. The guys love to see you on here. Make sure you say hi to everybody. There you go, Joel. Thank you. So one of the things that we haven't really talked about it much, and I'll throw it up here if it's something you want to go into, we will. But when Darin did my heads and did my intake, he set me up with this spacer.
Okay. That's a rear Morrison deal. Yeah.
Yep. And then the 7-degree AR plate.
Okay.
Have you used those, or what's your experience with that?
Yeah.
I'll show the guys so they can see it.
I used to rub one all the time. Yep. They were really good. You hear a lot of times about voodoo.
Yeah.
Porting voodoo. I think that will apply to spacers.
Okay.
Everybody asks me, what would you run? Is this one better? I mean, I recommend a 4-hole, depending on if you need plenum, you can't run a 4-hole. But I think that one like you have is a great concept. The super sucker stuff's a great concept. I don't know how you could go wrong.
Yeah.
I don't. You know, like I was telling you earlier that, you know, all the super stock stuff, there's no, actually I have it on my desk. Yeah. So all my super stock stuff, I run one like this here. So see how it's cut out.
Yep.
These are tapered.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to cut the top of the manifold like that as well. And then they drop down into the plenum, which Terry made me these. These here, you can get these in different lengths. They just bolt in. But that is about all of the spacer we can run on them, which is about a 1/4 inch because they were so close to the hood. And then I was using a lot of these here, which is the MagnaFlow, which they're the same concept. They're just thicker, and they were getting hard to get. So that's why I had Terry do it. And I will say this. Anything that I've ever put something like this on,
yeah,
the plenum has been absolutely clean. No fuel stains, nothing. I mean, I just think it helps direct the fuel where it needs to go to get picked up by the air. You know, and like we talked about the last time, there's so much chaos going on in there. You know, anything you can do, you're basically saying with a 4-hole and a taper spacer, here's where you're there, here's where you're going. You know what I'm saying? Rather than an open to where it's just dumping it all in there. So that's why I could see why, you know, then you got to worry about how close the top is to the plenum floor, you know. So I think that's the only reason why a spacer works, is because you might be too close. You might be, if you take an inch off, put a 1/2 inch on, it goes faster. You may have been too close to the hood. You know, I don't know if there's a definite, you got to try them.
Try it. That's it. Do you think those 4-hole, do you think they lengthen the throttle bores?
Yeah.
Or
degree
from that, or do you think it's effect from the proximity of the plenum?
I think it's probably the proximity of the plenum.
Okay.
I think it probably helps with the initial signal. You know what I mean? Because you know, think about it. When you got an open, you got to go all the way up that open too. Whereas you got a 4-hole with something pointing down. But I also think that can get you in trouble too if you don't have enough. If you have other issues. You know, I think it's a lot like what John said. I don't think a spacer is going to fix if you got a distribution problem or if you've got a hood problem, you're not going to fix it. The spacer is not going to fix your problem.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, that's
out there. My gosh, there's so many. It's confusing. It really is.
And one of the things that John had talked about on the last live chat we were doing on air bleeds, and he was talking about, you know, people sometimes get the conception that, you know, oh, it's a carburetor problem. It's a carburetor. I can't tune this. And sometimes it is not the carburetor. I mean, it's the cylinder head. You know what I mean? Or the intake. It's not just a carburetor issue sometimes. So.
Yeah, I did probably 6 or 7 of them for this one engine builder that were running one of those F1 on their dragsters. Okay. Yeah. So they were running sniper manifolds. So it has this big F1 hanging on it. It's got this big thing that comes into it. Exact opposite of where that big tube came in, that whole wall was plastered with fuel stain from all of that in ramming air. So all I would do is I just totally roughed them up, and it took care of it. I probably ended up doing like 6 or 7 manifolds for them like that.
Wow.
Because that F1 was just throwing so much air in there so fast, it couldn't keep up.
I'll show you a secret that I did.
Yeah, that works well too.
I'm telling you, that picked up 600ths off the 60 foot with a super sucker and a 4-hole on top of it.
Yeah, that's all back in the day, all of the 750 comp stuff. That's all we ran. It was like a 4-hole Moroso and a 4-hole open.
Yeah.
Turn it around once and try it.
Turn it upside down?
Put the 4-hole on the bottom and the open on the top.
Okay. Chad, where do you lay your pitot tubes? Right on the metal of the ports, or do your tubes have standoff tits?
No, I had one that had one of those little things, but it broke off. So I just lay it on the floor and then just rotate it up. Lay the whole pitot, the J90 on the floor, and just rotate it up about the same in every location, which is probably 200.
Lone Wrencher says, do you guys ever fool with any old FE engines? Do you know the stock block limits of these engines?
I don't. I probably did 2 or 3 sets of those. The last one I did was a nightmare because it was a set of real rare tunnel. What do they call it?
Tunnel port.
And after I did all my work on them and everything was cool, the guy put them on the engine, and it formed a pinhole because I disrupted the old cast iron.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had to set them off and have them fixed. And
Oh,
but I've never really, I don't know about the bore. I really don't.
any of those engines, man, once you get to 600 horsepower, you better be thinking about something else.
Yeah.
They were never made to handle 600-700 horsepower. Jeff says, opinion or option. I run a 4-quarter active steam vent system. I think Chad is right. The lack of seat ring thickness with that size valve is not up to the task long term.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. The only time I've ever seen other than initial putting them in, say like you take a head and you weld up the registers and you cut them and put seats in it, I've seen seats move. It happens. It's just the way it is. But the only time I've ever seen a valve really go out around or not say is because the seat ring isn't big enough and it's just flexing. I've even literally seen guys not pay attention, and literally when they valve jobbed it, ended up putting the seat on the aluminum and ran in it. Follow what I mean? Because it didn't have enough seat ring in it.
Yeah. Joel throws this out there too. He says, Jeff, its expansion from heat head grows in width east to west more so than intake to exhaust, north to south. Sounds like a geographic issue. Jamie Brown, Microsoft is telling me my cloudy head is full of knowledge and I have to delete some files to fit more in. Buy memories of unported heads and manifolds. Thanks for another great live chat, Tim and Chad. Well, you're welcome, Jamie Brown. Spread it around. Make sure you subscribe and like. 158 people. We should have 158 likes. So thank you. And then Chad's in our group, and he says, Jeff, bring that up in the group, which is something good to talk about. So yes. Now this is interesting because I'm not sure about this one, Chad. Have you done AMC V8 heads?
I just did a set last year from, they were, who makes those heads? Indy, if I remember right, Indy's. And I did everything. They had no push rod relief in them. We put offset everything in them. I had to put new studs in for the rockers. They were a really nice set of heads. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on them. I don't remember what they flowed though. They were pretty good. 360 range maybe. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because this guy had a set of Marcellas that Marcella did, and he sent me all the flow data, so I kind of had a heads up of where they should be.
I always like these set of AMC heads. It's hard to see up in the corner above my head.
Oh, oh, yeah. Yeah.
The old Pro Stock stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Now the crowd's coming alive here. Pontiac says the anti-reversion spacer makes sense as an intake pulse traveling back up the carb. It can cause the boosters to dump fuel when it's not needed.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like my issue is I got a vacuum secondary. I have to run a vacuum secondary. So it just kind of makes, it's a mess.
Now here's a porter from down under, Sean. Does a lot of the Barra stuff, the 6-cylinder stuff. Welcome, Sean. Haven't heard from you in a while. Well, you have them both together. Ask them their thoughts on 146 CFM per square inch of area on a flow bench.
Yeah. Sean knows that answer. He doesn't need to ask anybody.
Oh, you know Sean. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same reason that we explained it in the last video. It's everything.
There it is. I'm at work, so I'll have to catch up later today. Cheers from Australia. Thank you. Would you like to do more?
Yeah, I do know. So I think he's talking about AMC heads. Yeah, I do know that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But I don't think, as far as aluminum goes, there's probably only one company that's making
it. I think it is. Indy's the only one, I think, if I remember right.
Lenny, put that down if that's who made them. If it was Indy. You're probably right. Justin says, Chad, how much margin thickness do you like to see on the intake valve?
I'd say a minimum of 60.
Okay.
So most of the new ones that I get done are like, depends if it's a titanium or steel, but say like 60 and 80. And then say like 80 and 100 if it's going to run nitrous.
Thank you. Brian Salter says, valve seat tip. If you install new thicker intake seats, replace exhaust seats last so that you do not cut into the exhaust seat.
Yeah.
Always cut into the intake seat when installing seats. Yep. 7/1000 press.
I've seen a lot of heads come here the wrong way. Yeah.
Really?
I've been in the situation though that I had to do just the opposite of that. And the reason being is because they interlocked, but the seat it was a 23-degree Chevy. It was actually Dickey stuff. I put a 2180 in it, 2180 intake, but only a 1570. And when I cut into the 1570, it cut into the overlap. Follow me? So if I would have went the other way, if I would have done it the wrong way, then I would have had all. So that's the only time I've ever seen it to where it cut into the. So literally, honestly, when you could lap it in and you could definitely see where it didn't clean in the two little, because it overlapped. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I've seen a lot of them wrong where they don't do that, where they put the freaking exhaust in first or.
Yep. Lenny says, yeah, Indy and Metalbrock make them. That's who makes them. So, excellent. And I don't know if is Chad interested in a dial speed Makita grinder used one time.
Yeah.
There you go, Pontiac. So you can get on his Facebook page and make a comment there. Call him at his office, shop, whatever. Interested. RRD Performance. Ever rough finished valve and stem?
I actually just did a test with doing the head of a valve, and the finish, Sinus actually has what they call a snakeskin finish, which had a texture on the stem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it held oil. I used not a lot of them, but I used a few of them. But I never really noticed anything in the head of the valve. But I did try it. I have tried it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, is it for an airflow aspect or is it for oil?
Yeah. I think it'd be more for wet.
Okay.
Trying to maybe make the droplets even smaller before they hit the.
Yep.
Yeah, that was my thought.
Ryan says, how much difference is there between boundary layer velocity and 2/10 off the surface if you're using a pitot tube on the flow bench and porting to your measurements?
Anywhere from 0 right on the wall to 200 plus out. I've seen 0 on the wall. Absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because that's all you're really doing is changing the viscosity of the wall. Yeah, and actually, to be honest with you, the faster the air gets, it all goes to 0. So in a live engine, it's probably very well 0 at the wall.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it. Anti-reversion plate for a quadrojet on a street car, and who makes them on a single plane, and best adapter?
I don't know. The guys in Australia that have the Ironhide have a really cool quadrojet that bolts right onto a 4150 manifold. I mean, may check that out. He may have something that's got a nice cone on it or built reversion in it. It's cool. I got a price on it. I think it was like $310 for the spacer, if I remember right. But yeah, it's on his site.
What's the guy's name?
It's the Ironhide. So it's that P2. Yeah. Performance prototype.
There you go, Don. Check it out. Let us know. Jeff's asking, is valve lapping a bad idea since heat changes the actual shape and seal?
I don't know. I think that's a debate. I personally hit everything. I don't care if it's got the absolute perfect valve job. I'll still hit it with a finish stone. Just for that, especially if I'm sending heads out not complete. So if I'm just doing heads, porting them, or a valve job, but everything, and it's just habit. I've done it for years. I think the reason being is because I was always told that every precision part is hand finished. Cranks are hand finished. Valves are hand finished. You know what I mean? Or lapped.
Yeah.
But I tell you what I have done, Jeff, is just to know where I'm at. Instead of using like a compound, I've used like 800 lap or toothpaste.
I've heard toothpaste.
Because toothpaste has no grit in it,
Yep.
and it'll lap right in perfect.
Toothpaste. What kind of toothpaste?
I use Crest. I just got a little like one you get out of a motel room that I have a little my seat and guide machine. Yeah.
Now
I hate with a passion, guys do it. I hate diking it all up because it's a mess to clean up.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta wait for it to dry. I'll put my little black lines on it, you know, and if I don't hit it with a finish stone, and actually, if the valve job is good, really good, you should be able to put lines on it. Drop that valve in it, twist it, and you ought to see that line all the way around.
I've seen you do that with a Sharpie around the perimeter.
Yeah, you ought to not have to put any compound on it. Just put it in there. Make sure you got some witness marks. Grab the bottom side of it, twist it, you know, so it can go around. It ought to mark totally all the way around the valve and the seat.
Good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
Were you talking about cleaning Dykem using some stuff?
Yeah.
You just said that?
Yeah, that citrus stuff. So where I got that was I bought a new set of radials for the car.
Yeah.
It had Hoosiers on them. My dad's like, that's got to come off.
I hate that. Yeah.
If you get that off, you can do it if you can get it off. He tried everything we had here, nothing to get it off.
Brake clean, man.
Yeah, well, I didn't have any. I hate that stuff too because it makes me feel weird. But anyway, so I went and I Googled it, and some guy on YouTube said he went to Home Depot and he bought this stuff and he just sprayed on there on the Hoosier, wiped it off with the rag. So I said, I'm gonna go get you something. I did it. Sure shit, worked perfect. And then the other day I was like, I had some acetone and I ran out, and I'm like, I hate getting this Dykem off. So I grabbed it. I'm like, well, it says right here it's good for. So I sprayed it on there and I instantly wiped off with a rag. Plus it smells citrus.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Citrus what? I'm gonna make a post on it.
Get the can. I'm not sure. Citrus spray, I think they call it. I got it at Home Depot.
All right.
Yeah, it worked well. And since then I've used it for. And actually another cool thing. So like when you put Dykem on stuff, you know, it'll splatter all over.
Yeah.
You know? So like when I wash a manifold, I just sprayed this stuff on the manifold and got my brush and I just brushed it, and it took every splatter mark off of it. Yeah, it worked really good.
I wonder if it'd work with whitening your teeth.
Yeah, maybe.
Jeff says, "Oh wow, must be about the toothpaste." Thank you. Lone Wrencher says, "You two plus Brian Stalder at one time is a lot of knowledge." Yeah.
I like Brian. Brian's a good dude.
May have to get you on here, Brian, for a live chat. Get your history. Thank you for the tip. You're most welcome.
Yeah, you'll be surprised how that works. And it cleans up real easy. That's the cool thing about it.
Jeff says, I use a marker on coated titanium valves. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. Great information. Thanks for all your knowledge. Thank you for being here. Cobalt 512 says, any experience with Durabond 70,000 valve seats? Ordered some, but not sure if I should install them or keep the factory seats running.
Yeah, I've used them. I like the 3000s better. They're a pain in the butt to cut. That's all I can tell you. I would put ductile iron in it. That's just me. I like ductile iron. So much easier to cut. They'll withstand anything. They've been around forever, you know. But I like the 3000 series better than the 7000s.
If you have valve seats that are ductile iron and they're good, they're in good shape, would you change them just because you want to change them? Don't mess with them.
The only time I would change them if someone's done, you know, if they're older and they've had one too many valve jobs and they're thin. Okay. You know, that'd be the only time I would change them. But I don't. Stuff's been around a long time.
Yeah, it has. Ryan said, is there any gain in flow making your intake seat margins 80 thousandths?
Yes, some of them. I've like the nitrous stuff's 80 thousandths. I'd rather give up a little bit of flow for the nitrous stuff. You know, just simply for the durability. You know, you get 60,000 margin in there with a lot of nitrous, and you don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Some of them, if you look in the Manley catalog, some of them might even be 80 on the intake. Yeah.
Okay.
It's for sure on the exhaust.
Well, I'm looking at everything. We've answered all the questions. There's no more questions. It's been over 2 hours and 9 minutes, which is, Chad and I had talked about this before, saying, look, we kind of want to stick around 2 hours. You know, it makes it easy to replay it for people and for us. You know, it's Sunday night. Everyone's got to get up for work tomorrow morning, and we want to have time for our families. So what we're going to do is we're going to end it. I don't see any more questions. Chad, I thank you for coming here. I'm telling you, it's always fun. And I wish Darin was here, but I know he had some other stuff he might be doing.
Yeah.
So
No problem. We can do it again.
at that point, well, that's what we'll do. We're going to end it here. I see a couple questions, but we're going to wait on that unless you want to answer 2 more. But what we'll do is we'll come back and do it again.
Okay.
So we appreciate you guys being here. DragBoss Garage, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel because I'm telling you, it's going to be awesome. So take a peek. This is my car racing, and Darin did the heads and intake. Hang on, Chad.